So it seems that we can start. Hi everyone. Hope that you will not fall apart and fall asleep after the lunch. But let's talk about DNS. So let me introduce myself for first. My name is Jan Rynes. I'm solution architect at a company called Infoblox. I'm from Czech Republic, so I might understand what you guys are talking about, but I won't probably be able to answer back in Slovenian. But English is okay for me. So, a little bit about Infoblox, because maybe somebody have heard this for the first time and you never heard this name before. Just really briefly, because I don't like marketing, so I will do it like on voice. It's an American company focusing on an area that we call in a shortcut with the 3 letters DDI, meaning DNS, DHCP, IP address management. But a part of that, that's our legacy that we've grown up on. A part of that, we are focusing on DNS as a security tool. So in my presentation, I will have a look on examples of malware, how DNS can be used and abused. And obviously, if you will have any kind of questions, just raise your hand and scream out loud, because there will be some place on the end of the presentation. But if you want to know something more, just say it. So I will also have a look how we can throw in some threat intelligence into the mix. So let's have a look on back to the roots, back to the basics. So I'll start with this part of traditional approach to security. So this is, I believe, something that you guys are familiar with. So if you want to do some kind of security, you build the security stack. So you build your firewalls, you build your gateways, you build your DNS or IDS, IPS systems, DLPs, and whatever. So this is the traditional approach. So there are plenty of vendors, plenty of solutions, and so on. And the DNS part is basically sitting there apart. You have it, right? Is there somebody who does not have DNS in its network? Wow, well, a forest of hands. So everyone is using DNS, right? So it's a protocol that is with us for, I don't know, like 1982, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a long time here. What is happening is that if your endpoints want to talk somewhere, basically anywhere, what they do? They ask DNS, where is this name? Because let's face it, nowadays with our cloud stuff and all these applications, they usually are not sitting on the same IP address for the entirety of the application. The IP address is changing, right? Somebody buys someone and so on. So the name stays. So the name is like convenient for that. And they are asking who? Well, they are asking the DNS server, right? So I'm thinking, hey, well, how can we leverage this into the security part, or we cannot? What do you think? We can. So usually what you do is that your network, your devices will get some kind of IP address. They initiate the sessions, TCP, UDP, whatever it is, and try to talk to wherever. And your security solutions are saying, this is bad, this is good, this should be blocked, it should not be blocked. And they are working well, and they are doing their job. They are doing it pretty much as they can. And there's quite a lot of load, because every single session needs to be checked. Everything. So I'm thinking, what if I would take the threat intelligence that those solutions have, and what if I put on the DNS server? What then would happen? Well, what would happen is that if you know that this is a malicious destination, why would you initiate the session in the first place? Let's not have the session. Let's not do the communication that doesn't need to exist in the first place. And actually, DNS server is something that is designed to look for millions and millions of information in the shortest period of time possible. It's designed to do so. So why not leverage it in the security world? So the side effect of this is that your security appliances will have free hands to focus on the stuff that will go through, because let's face it, there might be some application and something that will have the IP address in the first place, so it will initiate the communication. So you need those firewalls, and I'm not saying that get rid of the firewalls. No, they have their place. They have their reason, and they have their position in the security. So what I'm saying is let's add the DNS as a security tool. Let's leverage its power, and let's leverage the capabilities what it can do for us. Okay, so that was a little bit of briefing on the beginning of the presentation, and I would like to have a look on the attacker side, because we as people who are usually doing the protection side, that we are trying to make our system as secure as possible, we are thinking about DNS, and we are thinking about our systems that like, okay, I have this secured, I have firewalls, I have endpoints, I have everything. So the attackers obviously know that. So what they do, they adjust. And I would like to show you a few examples of how they adjust. So let's have a look on some pieces of examples of malware. It will be high level this time. Tomorrow I will do a little bit more to the technical. So if you would be interested, we can go deeper in the techniques. But today let's stick with the just on the overview level. So I would like to introduce you to Syntema backdoor malware. So what is this? This is targeted attack. So the attacker have decided, okay, I want to get to somewhere. And the somewhere was Jordanian government. It was on April 26th this year. And it was Iranian group that you also maybe know as Ulrich. So these are just simply targeted, maybe some government-oriented attack group. So they decided to be stealth. They decided not to scream out loud and knock on the firewall door and say, hey, I'm here. They started to basically be subtle, and they wanted to be as silent as possible. So what they've done is use DNS for command and control. And there is a graph on the screen, and I hope that the quality of the project will be better, but I will go through it. So how they were spreading the malware, how this was actually getting into the victim. Well, it was a mail with an email with Excel sheets attached into it. And well, even though you will not run macros probably, in this case, some people like to run macros. They are called users, right? And they like to click everywhere. So it was the reason how they got inside. So they got an Excel sheet with a macro, and inside the macro there was a script. And you might say, okay, so script and macro, so maybe Sandbox can detect that. Well, who says that the script has to be malicious? It doesn't. So what we are looking here is the place that it began somewhere. It start to say, I'm alive. Start to send traffic. It was basically DNS queries, just asking for some kind of name. And the other side with the domains, in this case it was like some Uber-style lookalike domain, some Indian Uber, but it was fake, obviously. And this one is starting to send and receive. Well, what will happen then if there will be some kind of problem? Well, it go to sleep, right? So this is the method of how the attacker can talk to the other side, a little bit invisible, because hands up who does some monitoring on DNS. 1, 2, 3, 3 guys. I see much more people in the room. Okay, but you see it yourself. The monitoring on DNS is something that the people usually, in general, don't do. Why? Because they take DNS as IP address and name connection. Well, attacker is not thinking that. Attacker is thinking, okay, I need to exchange information. So if I ask for this information and I'll get IP address back, well, that's a communication. So what if I would encode the message under the query, and on the other side send IP address that the malware will be interested only in one part of it. So it will know that if it IP address ends up with 70, it means sleep. Okay, let's do. So this was a Syntema malware backdoor. Quite nice example, quite recent one. I have a little bit older one that's ransomware. communication. Again, similar thing. It's command and control communication. And in here, what we are looking at is basically some encoded messages in hexadecimal encoding to the one single domain. And if you have a look on the IP addresses, then you will see something a little bit weird in a short message. Because the IP addresses has only 2 octets with numbers, and the other 2 octets are the same. So is it IP address? Well, no, it's not. And have a look on the range of the IP addresses. That would have to be like big company, right? So it's not an IP address. It's again just command and control message back, sleep, encrypt, and so on. The story of this ransomware, how this was getting into the victims, was 2 different ways. The first way how they actually got infected was that the attacker have decided to use stolen credentials. So just RDP session into your server, log in, place the malware there, run it. The malware will have a look for a while, it will sleep. And then after it will initiate the communication with the command and control server, it will start to do something. So that was the first method, how they were attacking their victims. And the second method, if they don't have the credentials, was using this zero-day vulnerability on VPN concentrators. So they just simply got communication into the company using the zero-day vulnerability and applied the same technique and tactic. So this is an example of ransomware that the ransomware itself was using the Somrat vulnerability. So again, we see that the techniques are like jumping together. But what is ransomware? Ransomware is basically a security tool being abused. And the DNS traffic in this case, well, it's again stealth. It's again unnoticed. And those queries might look like okay. And if I have a look back onto the security stack that you usually run, it's not their fault that it's not detecting. Why? Because it was not designed to do so. Sometimes you just simply need to have a question and answer. And where this question and answer is meeting? Well, with the resolver, with the DNS resolver. Sometimes you don't have tabs everywhere. Sometimes you don't have intrusion prevention and detection systems. And sometimes those detection systems are simply not designed to do DNS queries because, in general, we trust them. One more example that I would like to share is for banking sector. It's well known. Is there somebody who doesn't know what Emotet stands for? I believe that you all know that because it's old malware designed for banks. And in this particular case, I was just focusing on the change of behavior of the attacker. So they were always, for a while, since 2014, they were exchanging the messages with this 0.0.0.0. Well, that's a bogon IP address that should not happen in the first place, and if you see it, it's an anomaly, so you should be like alerted. Why should I have this bogon IP address in my network, in my communication? But in this case, they exchanged this with an IP address of the victim. And in order not to send the IP address in a normal circumstances, they just decided to make the opposite direction. So the first octet was last octet and so on. And it's not visible, but I will say what means there. These domains are basically, they are basically legit domains. It's just a matter to send the query, detect the query in the internet, and you know that somebody has been affected. And in this case, they already have even the IP address of the machine. So these were like a few examples that I like to share because I believe that the way how attacker is thinking is totally different than what we are taught and what we are thinking normally. And we need to change that because otherwise they will have the edge, they will have the advantage every single time. There might be another thing. There might be like indicators of compromise. And if you know that some domain is bad and malicious, you don't talk to it. You use web filtration techniques, some proxies, and you don't initiate the communication to that in the first place. But the DNS usually happens. And I was looking into some statistics, how much of this we have, how much of this we fight with. Is it common? Is it uncommon? So this is statistics that I took from a study on the domain name system abuse that was done for European Union, for European Commission on January this year. And this is like Appendix 1 technical report. So if you would like to know more, just Google it out, you will find it pretty easy. It's public. And in this document, they were focusing on not only the stuff that I'm focusing at, they were focusing also on volumetric attacks, DDoSes, some cache poisoning, and so on. But I was reading it through and I found this part that was focusing on newly registered domains. And that is something that is worrying, because if you want to avoid reputation, you just register a new domain and there is no reputation in the beginning. So this red means domains that were actually registered for the malicious purpose in the first place. And those blue are domains that were abused for the malicious intention. So they were not registered for that. And most of those domains, they usually live for 1 or 2 days. Usually they don't live longer. They live 1 or 2 days, and then they will be never used again, maybe. But if you have a look at that, if you have a look on spam and botnet command and control, these two middle ones, why would you talk to the new domain that is on the internet 1 day? You have like 90% chance that that domain will be malicious. Why to talk to it in the first place? So this is something that DNS server can help with, because this can be known that somebody registers and somebody firstly used. Phishing and malware, obviously, if you are a phishing campaign, you want to make your phish successful. So it's targeted phishing. You are trying to make the domain as similar as possible, to mimic, to make the human to click, to make the human to act. So that's why we seek much more of abuse or abused domains that were not registered in the first place. And the same with malware, but still quite a lot of domains. So now let's have a look on the protector side. So I've already talked about the part that we can leverage the DNS server as basically the solution for that. But we were asked, and I would like to share with you, why would I need another tool? And this is the outcome of a real case that the customer asked us. Okay, why should I choose you guys? I have vendor A, B, C, D, Z, whatever. And this is obviously, it will be valid for a period of time, because only in the period of time you have these IOCs. And I've deliberately put out the information who is what color. I'll just mention them down here. Why? Because I don't want to have contest who is better and who is worst. It's not the case. The case is that if you have a look on the graph, on the leaves, on the edges, you see IOCs that only that vendor have or claims to have. In between the colors where they are meeting, you will see the overlap between two different vendors, and obviously with other vendors as well. And all together, all of them, all those four, in that time, had knowledge of 135 IOCs, meaning IP addresses and domain names. This is the number that all of them know together. And I'm saying, well, that's like low, right? On one hand, I have millions. On the other hand, altogether have like 100. That's not enough. That's not the greatest solution. And if I have a look on like double of like connection of 2, I see that it's less than 10%. And that's like, okay, so there is no silver bullet. There is always somebody who will know more, because every single vendor has some kind of direction. They have set of customers, they have set of intelligence, that they can catch some threats. So what if I will have a vendor A and the attacker will attack me from information that vendor B knows? Well, vendor A will not protect me, vendor B will. But I'm thinking, let's let's get this together, because having this situation like we have right now, it's like not a solution for me. But as I see it, as I look at it, it's like, okay, so I have a problem. I need to get cooperation of different vendors, and well, that's not happening, let's face it. But let's get back a little bit to the story of knowing that something is fresh and something is new. So I've basically placed this graph, and this is based on important points of life of the domain. So attacker wants to attack. He will register. He will firstly use, and then we have the third place, and that some kind of vendor will come and say, yes, that's malicious, don't go there. Well, sorry, but attack have happened. So what if we will focus on those 2 points? Let's not talk to the domains that are new. And how we can do that is with threat intelligence and sharing that threat intelligence. Usually we see a solution like this, that every single solution in here will have some threat intelligence feeds, and they are consuming only its own threat intelligence feeds, no other. So this is like security operations, CM operation, or SOAR operations, and these solutions cost quite a lot. I would like to introduce you to this. It's a shortcut. That's our product. I don't want to talk about the product itself, what it does, but it's basically a database that collects different threat information and can share. So the side effect of that would be that if we make this in the middle and we collect the information, as much as information as possible, and then distribute this information into my security tools, I actually can make the security tools being more effective. So combine this with DNS level security, combine this with threat intelligence that make your solutions more effective. And I believe that we have some case that can help you with every single day, because when you are fighting some threats, when you are fighting some attacks, and that's happening daily, then the knowledge is the thing that you need. And you need it fast, and you need it immediately. So the side effect of this is that if some of the solution will detect and block on this level, the other solutions don't have to detect and block because it will not arrive to them. So the amount of events that will be in here will be lower. So we can actually save some money on other solutions. You might say and ask how this threat intelligence can help me, how this threat intelligence can look like. So let's have a look, and this is actually from the Santana, from the first malware example. This is our tool that we call Dossier, because it's designed for people to look for information as fast as possible. You just place their IOC. In this case, I placed inside this domain. And the solution will have a look on the internet and do the hard work for me. So me, as a security operation guy, I would not have to go for different solutions. The resolution is terrible, so sorry for that. What's supposed to be in here, and I believe that you guys in the back cannot read it, right? So, sorry, I'm not the master of this projector. This is like categorization. So first you have like Infoblox, this categorization, and other vendors. So in here I recognize Sophos. Even for me it's hard to recognize. So you don't have to go for multiple different, multiple different sources. We will do it for you. And because I have only 5 minutes, as I've seen, is that this is something that is a graphical interface for humans, but you need to share this information faster, right? So, and I don't want to look. It can look like this. It's not meant for you guys to read it, read all the lines. It's not the message. The message is that the same IOC, the same information can be spread with these like coded messages, the machine-to-machine language. So you can actually exchange this via API. And actually this can bring you even more information. So yes, here we have like a malware command and control. It's generic, but down here we have nodes. That is this particular malware. So you basically know exactly who you are fighting. And other information is encoded in here, like meta attack kill chain. Maybe even this line. This is like quite interesting one, because you will see that the attack vector is network, attack complexity is low, privilege required, so you don't have to be admin, it's low. User interaction is no user interaction needed. You can exfiltrate information with this is high, modification is low, and availability is low. What it means is targeted attack. Because if the availability would be high, well, everybody can easily get the infection on the internet. So this actually can help you out pretty much in every single day work. This is just an example of one IOC. You can imagine that your CM solutions and other solutions can make millions of calls a day and get all of this information to the power of acting. So the last thing that I would like to close this presentation is that if you know what you are fighting with, then you can actively and proactively protect yourself. If you don't, well, it's just lucky guess and lucky hit if you will be protected or not. So this graph represents financial sector and threat groups. It's a little bit older. It's from MitraAttack framework. And it's showing different groups that are motivated to attack financial sector. So if you are a bank and somebody from this area will attack you, then you are in a deep problem. But if you are a bank and you identify that somebody in here, that's motivation is ecology, that might be just a mistake. So if you have this knowledge and if you have this information, you can act upon it and you can make your solutions much more robust and your protection much more capable. So this is all that what I have prepared for you guys, and I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that after lunch it was interesting to see. Thank you. Any question? Maybe just find me in the lobby and ask there. Guys, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.